Good morning, everybody. It is the first Monday of the month at 11 a.m. Eastern. Welcome to the FFLGuard monthly webinar call. It's being well attended today. There's a lot going on in the world of the federal firearms licensees. I, of course, am your humble host, Chris Trifulo. With me on the call is brother Brian in the office next door to me. We have Avis Lindler down in our South Carolina office with that lovely background. Ask us how your employees can be FFLGuard certified, which is turning into being a very important thing, apparently. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Michael Franzak joins us from his lovely home in Maryland that Brian and I, it's not there. Where?
Delaware.
Delaware. They all seem the same to me, Maryland, Delaware. I just drive south until I hit one of them. But that's right, we were just in Delaware, I forgot. Awesome little place on the seashore there. So Mike, welcome. And of course, we have Mike Bouchard coming to us from Virginia. That's that part I remember. Others of us that are usually with us, Rick is busy today, although obviously we always have access to his brilliance if we need it. And our business guru, Hank Yasek, is on the road today, so he's also unavailable. So it'll just be us five today.
Oh, wait a minute. Look who's joining us, Chris. Look who's joining us today. One of our favorite California guys.
Chuck Michele?
The one and only.
Chuck? Holy
there he is.
Shit. Chuck Michele has joined us. Unmute yourself, Chuck. Look, he's half blind. You look like Popeye. There we go. How are you? Good morning.
Half blind, old. Yeah, falling apart at the seams.
Listen, you must have some big Supreme Court or worldly announcements to make for you to be here so early in California time.
Well, I just felt bad because I missed you last week, or last time. So
okay, all right. So this is a makeup session. I appreciate that. We just got done with announcements. So the final, introduction. So the final introduction is, of course, Chuck Michele coming to us 8 a.m. Pacific time from probably from Henderson, Nevada, if I had a
Las Vegas.
From beautiful Las Vegas. Let's get underway. It's been a busy month at FFLGuard. You can tell by the when you ask a help desk question whether we're busy or not. And we used to call Tuesdays Tornado Tuesday because that seemed to be the day that everything was happening. Now at FFLGuard, we have every day is called something. It's Manic Monday, Tornado Tuesday,
Whirlwind Wednesday.
Every day has been something because in quarter number 1 of 2022, notices of revocation issued by the ATF were up 110%. So they've doubled their notices. Now that's not revocations, that's notices of revocation. To be revoked, you still have to go through a process. I will tell you that any process related to any FFLGuard client, and there are a few that have been caught in the vortex, or any hot client that has come in and asked us for help, has stagnated and not moved through the pipeline at all. But I have heard of revocations that have occurred in this huge uptick of 110% by those either represented by others or not represented at all, or who just said, screw this shit, I'm not doing it anymore. Take my license, which is really what the government wants. So turning back to FFLGuard clients, we have a few cold clients who have been caught in the notice of revocation game being played by ATF, which is if you hit one of 5 triggering events laid out by the Biden administration in their June 2021 directive, if you hit any one of the 5 triggering events, then you go right to a revocation. You don't get summarily revoked. There still has to be a revocation process. You just go right to the revocation process. And what we at FFLGuard have done, and Mike Franzak and Mike Bouchard can correct me if I'm wrong, we are the only, I am the only lawyer in the country to have been blessed with, upon request, a pre-revocation meeting to discuss extraordinary circumstances as to why the revocation process should stop in its tracks. I am the only one in the whole country that's gotten that. And it's not me, it's us, it's we, it's a we thing. It's all of us working together, but FFLGuard is the only one to have received that. So when you're seeing, you know, jokers from the NSSF that haven't been at ATF for 20 years doing seminars, or you're hearing that this lawyer or that lawyer does things, nobody has the gravitas that FFLGuard has. Period. End of story. I don't even care if it's blowing, if it's patting myself on the back. I'll break my own arm because this is that big. This is that big. Now, if we can get past our presentations that we've made as to why clients who were caught in this June 2021 directive to revoke them, if we can get past the process by presenting extraordinary circumstances, then we truly will have something good on our hands. We've got them, their heads spinning, and Franzak can even speak to that a little bit too. They're still trying to figure out, holy crap, what do we do? We were the ones who put out there needs to be extraordinary circumstances. Now you got Shafulo cramming extraordinary circumstances down our throats. And I will tell you all that one of the extraordinary circumstances is that we have law plus guidelines. And I go in and I say, look at all the things we do that we don't have to do, that we do voluntarily, that helps keep the public safe. So I encourage everybody on this call and everybody who watches the replay, because it seems as though we get a huge replay view, to go to the website, download the Law Plus guidelines, and make sure that you are hitting the 90% mark on that using our point system. I will also tell you that the reason I was down in Delaware or Maryland or whichever little shit state we were in recently was to sit with Mike Franzak, sit with Brian, ask some of our other subject matter experts for their opinion, and create version 5.0 of the Law Plus guidelines. Right now, you've got version 4.0, which is still current and still good, but come May 1st, you will have version 5.0. Brian and I will be working on retweaking all the training, and we will, the training will be adjusted to address many of the new issues that we added to Law Plus Guidelines 5.0 based on the Joe Biden 2021 directive. So download the current ones, get them up to speed. A new version is coming. There will be some tweaks and fine tuning in there that you'll be able to adapt to quickly. But it's important that you do these things. You need, I've only been saying it for 15 years. You need to do more. This is our way out. Or let them tell us, no, that's not enough, because that will cause us to go to the Supreme Court of the United States. And I'm fine with that. I'm good with that. No one's going to be able to tell us we don't do enough. So very important things that have gone on in the month of March related to revocations. Me, Brian, Avis, Deborah, so the client relations team and I are always available for you to talk. It is imperative that when you get inspected, you contact us immediately so we can open a case and we can chase you guys around for your report of violations. You may not have thought it was important previously. It is incredibly important now. I feel like I'm a ATF compliance prepper, and I've been prepping for 15 years for the zombies to come. and this is it. And we're actually ready. We're firing on all cylinders over here. Franzak has been a huge addition to the team. Huge. My man used to work with all these DIOs. They were his contemporaries. He picks up the phone and they listen at least. We are here for you. This is what you've been paying your money for. Please don't put me behind the 8 ball. If you have ATF there, call me. If you have a report of violations, give it to me. That was my 2 cents for the call. Now, Mike, Franzi, and I and Brian worked up a little punch list that Mike was going to talk about as well. Mike, I don't know if I stole any of your thunder on there, but I know there was some other stuff. What did you have to contribute?
First, I'm just going to piggyback off what you said about zombies, and it's interesting. I guess you're referring to the ATF IOIs as zombies coming out there.
I'm talking about, preppers get ready for the zombies to attack. They have their guns, they have their ammo, they have everything. And by the way, Brian and I are the same way with our upstate compound. But, if you do the analogy is I've been prepping for 15 years for the ATF to attack like this. And mind you, I don't even think it's the ATF attacking. I think they're the instrument by which the government is attacking. So yeah. They're just the sword that the government is wielding. That we all know that there's a bunch of guys at ATF. They're like, this is bullshit. So, sorry, but that's.
No, you're absolutely correct. And that's one of the things I wanted to point out to everybody today is keep in mind for the last couple of years with COVID being around, the ATF has been kind of not dormant, but not as vibrant as they used to be in the firearms inspection front. But now with a lot of hiring going on, constant hiring going on, last year, continuing this year, the inspections are picking up. So, with that said, with the inspection process picking up, if you haven't been inspected in anywhere from, say, 5 to 10 years, you can probably expect somebody coming out there, especially if, ATF has a lot of the analysis that they go through in selecting FFLs for inspection. So if you have a lot of traces, that's one. If some of your traces are being traced to violent crime, that's another bigger step that goes up. So the analytics are there. If you have a lot of denials, that's going to happen too. And so they do look at a lot of these analytics, and they base their inspections, yearly inspections off the analytics, especially if you haven't been inspected anywhere from 5 to 10 years. You're a big dealer, you're selling a lot of firearms, and you're hitting a lot of those check marks. You can expect to be inspected. Now, if someone comes out, somebody hasn't been there in a while, you might be kind of taken aback because what they're using now is they bring out a tablet. Their whole inspection is being done on the tablet. So that's going to be different for a lot of people. If you have not seen this, you're going to be signing, if you get a report of violations, you're going to be signing it right on a tablet. They're going to be going over their regulation review, acknowledgement of regulations with you on a tablet. So, and I know Brian has probably pointed this out as he's been out on a lot of inspections. This is going on, but some of you may not be aware of this right now. And what they do too is it's called an interview, so to speak. Interview. It's not really an interview. It's a discussion they're having with you at some point in time during the inspection process. They're going to ask you a bunch of things, and you're kind of going to be like, that's kind of odd. But they're going to ask you a series of questions pertaining to business licensing. Do you have your trade name license? Do you have your business license? Is your corporation LLC in good standing? What is your security system? Do you have a security system? Do you have alarms? What do you have? Do you have a motion detector? Do you have a front gate that comes down? Do you have bars? Do you lock your guns up at night in safes? All those kind of security questions are going to come out. And so they're going to be asking a series of questions about that. Who are your suppliers? There's another one. They're going to ask you who your suppliers are just to get a background from you. And that's going to be they're going to be typing this all into the database. So that's going to be new for a lot of people who have not seen that, probably maybe ever. They've never been inspected, or if you have not been inspected in 5 to 10 years. So just keep that in mind if somebody comes out, that this could happen. Another one that you may be getting, we had a call on this, and this has been dormant probably for about 3 years, is you may get a call from your local area supervisor or sends you an email and says, hey, myself and my director of industry operations would like to come out and visit your premise to have a meeting with you. And you're going to immediately contact FFLGuard and say, hey, what's going on? And we're going to tell you what's going on. And is that normal? It is normal. It started, like I said, probably about 5 years ago. They wanted to get the IOIs back out in the field to have meetings with, and they're going to select a lot of the larger dealers, wholesalers, manufacturers and importers. Basically, all this is a liaison visit. It's not an inspection. It's just a liaison visit to come and say, hey, this is who I am. This is who my boss, the DIO, is. And they're just going to ask you, and if you have any questions, do you have any issues? They're going to ask you probably some questions about your business too. Is there any issues you have going on? Do you use electronic A&D books, electronic 4473s? It's going to be a very quick meeting, probably no more than maybe 15, 20 minutes max. They're going to want to tour your premise. That's fine. They can tour your premise. But that's about it. So it could be like I said, it could be 15 minutes. It could be 20 minutes. It all depends on you. If you have a lot of questions you want to ask them, or a lot of complaints about the Biden 5 deadly sins, if you want to express those, that's fine too. And they can listen to that. And it's good if you say that, because they'll take that back and they're going to put in their report to headquarters, hey, they're complaining about these, and you guys should complain about those. So that's another one I just wanted to make you aware of also. Another thing I wanted to bring up, I think I mentioned this last call, is corrections to your report of violations. So when they do a closing conference with you and they're going over your report of violations with you, just don't say, yeah, I'm sorry, it won't happen again. And then you sign off on your report of violations. Thoroughly explain to them, think about your answer, but thoroughly explain on how this problem, this violation, will not happen again, and communicate that to the IOI. Just don't say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't do that. Make sure you give a good, correct, accurate answer on how that violation will never happen again. And we've seen a few this way. And Brian, you might just feel free to chime in if you want. We've seen it on a few ones. I want to morph into another one of my issues I had is we've seen it recently with multiple sale forms, where some FFLs think that the multiple sale forms are going to automatically be transmitted to ATF's Martinsburg National Tracing Center automatically by the system that you're using. It's not the case. You're going to have to go into those systems and do it yourself and go through that process. So things like that happen. But if say, for example, for an answer, hey, I did not know how I was cited for multiple sales not being completed. I understand now what I need to do to never have this problem occur again. I need to go into the system. I need to actually review if it's a multiple sale or not, and then accurately say, print it out if you have to, or electronically sign it if you have to also, and then send that off to the tracing center. But you actually can understand that you have to go into that system and do something to that multiple sale if it is or is not a multiple sale. And you can communicate that to the IOI there, but make sure you have a good answer. Don't just accept it, shrug your shoulders and say, I messed up. Communicate to them, because if you have a violation, that's one of the deadly sins also. What you say to them during that closing is going to be very important for us if we have a pre-hearing meeting with them, with the DIO, because that'll come up during that meeting.
Two very important issues that Michael, and I'm sorry if I'm going to steal something, but I don't want to forget, two very important issues come directly from the Law Plus guidelines. In the miscellaneous section, miscellaneous section B says conducting employee training. We have training modules available. The super users in every FFLGuard account can track when their users are being trained. They will receive a certificate that will remain stored in their FFLGuard account. Isn't that true, Brian? Yeah. And I will tell you that in our very first pre-revocation meeting, training was an issue, as well as the storage or the ability to reproduce. Yeah, here's the certificates of those have been trained. We suggest you do it. We provide, depending on your level of participation in the program, everyone at least gets one seat at the table or one license. And usually the super user will that one training, and then you have to buy additional ones because, you know, I have kids I have to feed too. Everyone, you know, makes their money. But I will tell you that that was important to ATF. The other thing that's important to ATF is also in the miscellaneous section, although it's should be expanded, and it will be in version 5.0. Section G says maintain an ATF log that memorializes all discussions with ATF, who you spoke with, what the position was. We are expanding this to be all law enforcement. Whenever you speak to any law enforcement official in any capacity, a couple of different things. You can contact us, and Avis or Deborah or Brian can direct you to the ATF, to the law enforcement cooperation letter that we have on file. It is a letter that is self-executing, which means we're asking for a response only if they object. Otherwise, this is how we perceive it. It's a letter that you send to the chief law enforcement officer of whatever department is visiting you to ask you for your cooperation, that says, hey, just so we're clear, Officer John Brown came here on such and such a day at such and such a time and asked me to do this. I'm assuming that this is not something untoward, a la Fast and Furious, and this is a sanctioned, you know, investigation by your department. If not, if it isn't, here's my name and number, let me know. But otherwise, I'm ready, willing, and able to help you. These participation letters, gathering business cards from whoever's asking you for their help. Hey, we're watching this guy. We want you to conduct a sale. We're not going to let him get out of the parking lot. Hey, can we review your video for such and such a day, such and such a time? Anytime you are cooperating with law enforcement, which is strictly voluntarily, it's a voluntary thing. You could say no, or get a subpoena, or get a whatever. You need to get their business card. You need to do the cooperation letter, because as Franzak will tell you, in these pre-revocation meetings, cooperation with law enforcement and the fact that we're not rogue gun dealers by any stretch of the imagination is huge, huge. So go right now. If you have folks that you work with regularly, get their business card. Next time you see them, hey, let me have your card. Remember, I helped you that time with such and such. Character references from law enforcement as to how you assist them are one of the carve-outs by the Biden administration as to, quote unquote, rewarding you when and if there happens to be an ATF administrative action coming your way. So those two things I just told you are already in the guidelines, and you already have been told. I'm just highlighting it now. And come version 5.0, we're going to expand, not just when you're communicating with ATF, but when you're communicating or helping any law enforcement agency. So that's what I wanted to add to Mr. Franzak. I'm happy to move down the line to Mr. Bouchard. Mike, I don't know if we had an opportunity last month to go over to headquarters. I don't think we did, but I don't know if you have anything to add. Although I will tell you, since you are our OPSEC specialist, your role in FFLGuard is huge for a couple of reasons. One, every FFLGuard client, when they join, gets an operational security law plus guideline that they should follow, because nowhere in the white book does it say that you have to do any operational security. You don't need to put a lock on a damn thing, except, you know, have your safe available for the recent, you know, safe issue. But the more you do operational security wise, the harder you are as a target the more consideration you'll get when the ATF moves to revoke you because you hit one of 5 deadly sins. Every single client is entitled to an hour to talk to you as part of their yearly fee. And they can pay you at a cut rate, at a discounted rate, to come help them or prepare operational security issues. So give us a little, wear your hat for ATF liaison and wear your hat for operational security specialist, and tell us what you got.
I think Mike Franzak had one more thing, Mike.
Yeah, you want me to go real quick? Two things I just want to cover real fast just before Mike goes is one thing too is if you have electronic Andy records and ATF comes to do an inspection and you download them to a thumb drive for them and they use that during their inspection there, before they leave, make sure that they delete that in front of you so you can see that that's been deleted. You don't want them taking that out with them. Make sure it's deleted there and used there on premise. Second thing that real quick too is FFL thefts. Remember, if you have a theft and ATF comes to do an inventory with you, and we have special agents coming also, that everybody is there as part of that criminal investigation. That is not, it is not your yearly, does not count as your yearly inspection when they're coming there doing an inventory to just to be accurate with what was possibly stolen from your premise. So I just wanted to go over those two items also. Thanks, Mike.
Okay. Chris covered some of the things that I was going to talk about, but the intent of this whole thing from the Biden administration is to keep the guns out of the hands of criminals. So anything you can think of in your business when you deny a sale, you see a potential straw purchase, any of those kind of things, if you note those and keep those in the same file that Chris mentioned before, that goes a long way. And anytime it raises your level of suspicion that you call law enforcement, note all those kind of things, because that's going to be a big help for you. And again, anything else creative thinking that you can come up with is extraordinary circumstances where you're going over and above to keep guns out of the hands of criminals. Those will be very helpful for you if ATF does give you a notice. Touching on what Chris mentioned, the relationship with ATF, typically what I do is I speak with the assistant director of field operations or the deputy director. Also, the industry side, whenever I need to. So we keep a regular contact with them. Anytime we have an issue, like the pre-hearings, we kind of got that from the deputy assistant director that, if you can bring up some extraordinary circumstances, ATF always wants to hear those. So the relationship with ATF has been very good. I think in the end of June, I'll be up there to meet with some of the executive level people. So we'll keep that thing going. Anytime you have an issue with a question, please let us know. One of us will reach out to our ATF contacts and try and get you an answer. On the OPSEC side, again, after my career with ATF, I spent about 13 plus years doing corporate security. So a lot of what I learned there, I also did a lot of work with AccuSport when they were in business to secure their facility, and also a couple of other distributors. So I've got a decent understanding of the business, how you operate. We can offer you some assistance at your place of business if you need it, to how you can better secure it. But again, as Chris mentioned, all those extra security measures you do, if you review your cameras regularly for suspicious activity, make a note of that. Anytime people come in and you suspect they could be just casing your store, call ATF and call the local law enforcement. Let them take a look at the video if they're interested in it. And again, note those kind of things. So pending any questions, that's Chris, did I cover what you wanted me to?
Yeah, and just a reminder, everybody who joins FFLGuard is entitled to 1 hour consultation with Mike about operational security. We can set that, the client relations team can set that up for you. We should probably create some sort of calendaring system for Mike, if that's a thing. So everybody's entitled to that. Number two is every client of FFLGuard also receives OPSEC Law Plus guidelines. So again, Avis, Brian, Deborah, let's make sure that they're available in the library. Everybody should get them on sign up. The third issue is that no matter what tier you come in at, whether you're a retailer, a manufacturer, a distributor, a large chain or security outfit, there are Law Plus guidelines, which are doing more than you need to do. Find them in the library and try and integrate them into your business. Same goes for NFA. If you're on the NFA yearly service plan, and particularly if you're part of the California yearly service plan, there are Law Plus guidelines in the library for you. Go get them and integrate them into your business. Because again, we are preparing a defense for you before you need it. That is the whole value of FFLGuard. So with the California yearly service plan mentioned, good segue into my Boobala Chucky baby out in California. He's already got mute off. He's chomping at the bit to say something. He's got posting URL links. What do you got for us, Chuck? Tell me.
Well, I just want to make sure everybody realizes that we're all holding our breath for the Supreme Court to rule at the end of June, last week of June, in the Bruin case, the New York public carry case, that could not only wipe out the special needs requirements of the remaining may issue states and turn them all effectively into shall issue states, where a good cause could be, or a special need could be demonstrated just by saying that you need to carry a gun in public for self-defense. In other words, they can't hold you to some higher standard where you have to document some kind of a death threat or something in order to be eligible for a permit. Before I move on from there, let me point out two big things that CRPA has helped to facilitate out in California. They don't really matter for the rest of this country per se, but you're going to get a kick out of them. For years, and I mean decades, the County of Los Angeles and the County of San Francisco refuse. And remember, the San Francisco, the city and county are the same thing, same geographic area. It's both a municipality and a county. Those sheriff's departments and the police chiefs within those jurisdictions refuse to issue permits to carry a gun in public. Now, the County of Los Angeles has gone from like 300 to 5,000. They're issuing them as fast as they can, actually, because Sheriff Villanueva is in a pissing match with the Board of Supervisors over funding. And so he's like, well, if I can't keep people safe with my department, then I'm going to let them protect themselves. That's his public pronouncement. In reality, he just wants the votes because they're going to try and challenge him in the next election. Up in San Francisco, you've got a police chief for the city of San Francisco who is still virulently anti-gun, but then you've got a sheriff for the county of San Francisco. And because of some of the things that CRPA and my law firm just did a big CCW conference where all the police departments and county sheriffs across the state, and we've got great relationships with the sheriffs in most of the counties now. When you factor in what's happened in LA and San Francisco, San Francisco is now the county sheriff in San Francisco is now going effectively shall issue. So this is gigantic, and it's as a result of some persuasive, not mandatory authority, persuasive authority like the Peruta ruling and some of those other cases that we pushed through over the years, and basically the mess that California is with defund the police, the crime rates going through the roof and all that stuff. So this is the between our persuasive efforts and those factual unsafe realities of rising crime, some of these sheriffs are feeling the heat. I wish I could say they were seeing the light, but they are changing their policies. So that's a gigantic change for the state of California. The other big thing which is also of interest to everybody who has anything to do with the range, which is probably most of you. California was, California is the petri dish of bad ideas for gun control efforts. They were trying to ban all lead at all ranges. That was last year. We managed to kill that, but then they tried to do some things regulatorily through the state EPA, the Department of Toxic Substances Control, where they were going to say that you couldn't recycle lead from a berm. You couldn't sift, the dirt through a strainer and pull out the lead particles and then ship that off for recycling. And a lot of ranges actually made a buck or broke even on berm maintenance by doing that lead recycling. DTSC was going to say that when you sift the berm dirt and it falls back down on the ground, you are redepositing a hazardous material. So that can't be considered recycling. So you've got to containerize the entire berm and ship it off to a hazardous recycling facility. Now that's something that they were going to try and push nationally, but they run up against the EPA best management practices guide for shooting ranges, which has the munitions rule, which allows that kind of recycling. But California was challenging the RCRA, the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, to try and get some traction nationally. Anyway, we wound up killing that. And the DTSC is now saying that California ranges can recycle their lead, which is gigantic. So those are two big news items coming out of California, which may or may not impact anything you're doing in other states. There's a whole slew of California legislation pending that will make it more and more difficult to do business in California. And for everybody's national perspective, the Supreme Court decision in Bruin is not just a challenge to restrictions on public carry and making it difficult to get a license to carry a gun in public. It's also going to be a test of the standard of review that's used by courts when evaluating a challenge to a gun control law via the Second Amendment. That standard of review, the level of scrutiny that a court is supposed to put on a law to see if the government can actually justify it, is the foundational evaluation, the foundational test that is going to determine the constitutionality, not just of public carry laws, but of any gun control law. And so there are a number, there's about 10 cases pending in the Supreme Court right now, which the Supreme Court has been sitting on. Remember, it takes 4 justices to vote to take a case and 5 to win. So a lot of times in the past, we had 4, but we didn't have 5. So the 4 would vote against taking the case because they knew they didn't have the 5th vote to win. Well, now we've got at least 5, maybe 6, depending on what Roberts does. So we should win that New York State Bruin case and then get a new standard of review, which would very well might constitute a hard reset on all the Second Amendment lawsuits that have been filed since McDonald back in 2010. So all the cases that we have lost over those years because of a biased Ninth Circuit in many cases, we would be able to relitigate. So that CRPA is doing a campaign on this called the Countdown to Hope, and that's kind of what it is. But there's a number of other cases that are queued up behind that New York State case. The biggest one I am aware of is the Dunkman matter, which is the challenge to the magazine capacity law in California. And we won that, believe it or not, at the 3-judge panel. And then the en banc panel parachuted in, as they love to do, and overturned the 3-judge panel. So now we're asking the Supreme Court to review that. It's likely that the Supreme Court will take a bunch of these cases that are pending and sit on them until June when the Bruin decision comes down, and then do what's called the GVR, a grant, vacate, and remand, where they accept the case. Remember, it's discretionary for the Supreme Court to review a case. They have to accept it. If they accept it, and then some new cases come down that changes the result of the lower court, the Supreme Court can simply grant cert, vacate the lower court ruling, remand the case for further consideration in light of the Supreme Court's most recent ruling that affects the analysis. It's quite possible that a lot of the cases that are pending in the Supreme Court will get that treatment in June after the Supreme Court rules on the Bruin case. So it's big times for the Second Amendment. We could win big, we could also lose big, but it seems pretty safe that we won't. And it seems like the anti-gun movement is also assuming that we are going to win and that they are going to lose. So they're already coming up with new ways to try and restrict public carry. They're going to say, like they do with some FFLs, you know, you can't have a gun store within 500 yards of a church, a school, or a stop sign. You know, they'll start putting all kinds of ridiculous location restrictions in place and trying to make it cost as much as they can, and tying all kinds of red tape to procedurally to getting a license. But those are fights that we inevitably are going to have, not just in the context of public carry, but on all the different things that the laws that they try and shove down our throats. But that's a fight that, you know, we're looking forward to, because it'll be different from sort of the biased treatment we're getting from the Ninth Circuit and other circuit courts.
Chuckles,
So,
you're the man. Thanks
keep your
for
fingers
showing.
crossed. Huh?
Yep, and we'll certainly revisit this come May's meeting, since we'll be closing in a little bit closer. But with 45 minutes passed in this month's episode, I want to close it out with my brother and Avis and the client relations team, who has been busier than ever. Debbie, too. You guys have been really hopping all month. What do you got for us on what you're seeing, what you're hearing, etc.?
I'm going to drop out. I'll see you in 15 minutes.
I'll
Okay,
see you
Chuck.
on your call, Chuck. Thanks for everything.
Okay, so sorry I missed all you guys last month. I was traveling. In fact, I've been, for the past 7 weeks, I've been in a different state per week for at least 2 days, either visiting with clients or the one trip, which was fun, down with Mike and Chris to get a couple things done. I can tell you that the stores that I have been visiting, there are a lot of common you don't know what you don't know situations going on, a lot of them leading into manufacturer and importer issues where they are you're improperly acquiring the firearm under the wrong manufacturer, not using an importer. I actually was in a place where they were using SAME as an importer. The same, there's no company named SAME, and there's no company that imports its own. If you're importing, it's going to be from one company overseas to one company in America. So the Glock being the situation, there are two different companies, Glock and Glock Inc. So if you're using you should only be using none if there's none for an importer. And there's no such thing as SAME. But I do notice a lot of discrepancies in certain firearms. And I can tell you that if you're Springfield Armory and Rock Island and High Point, those are your main offenders. They're not firearms manufacturers. The Springfield Armory does now. I'm the Saint, but these companies will keep changing their name, and you have to take what's on the firearm. It doesn't matter what the invoice says or the box says. It's what's engraved on that firearm that counts. Another thing that we've been seeing from the inspections that we forgot to bring up were the lease situation. If you are a renter in your building, even if you're renting from yourself, which is a different corporation as the owner, you have to have a lease from the owner to you, the renter of the building. Again, even if it's just writing a letter to yourself, you have to state that you are aware that so-and-so is a retailer in firearms and that you approve of this in your building that you own. The electronic records, I've now been to 3 different clients who are full electronic, and it is very impressive, guys. It made my visits, which again, if anybody would like a mock inspection done, if you would like a Schafolo's boots on the ground in your shop, please let us know. It doesn't cost that much to have me just come down to your shop and do a mock inspection and walk you through what's going to happen when ATF walks in the door. But if you're on full electronic records, I mean, your A&D and your 4473s and the 4473 cloud for storage, it was a breeze. It really was, because there can only be so many mistakes when you're on an electronic system. So that will also help get ATF in and out of your shop quick when you're being inspected.
And Brian, remember, or maybe you didn't even know, but Michael Franzak will remember, you don't need to do that. You don't need to do you don't need to go electronic, but you do. And when you do, that helps ATF inspect, track, and do all the things that they need to do. There's no law anywhere that says you need to do that. Now, we had a smart aleck push back and say, yeah, but it makes things easier for the retailer or the FFL as well. And the answer to that in retrospect is actually the point of sale system is what makes things, the electronic part of making things easier for a retailer. They could do the A&D portion, the A&D record manually if they wanted to. The POS system is what makes things easier. So by going electronic, doing electronic A&D, cloud storage, you name it, these are all things that you're not required to do that sure may residually help you, but ultimately helps the government effectively track and effectively be a part, identify where firearms are. I'm looking at my phone and Cape Gunworks is calling me, and I could swear I just saw them. I see Cape Gunworks right here. Why are you calling me on my cell phone? I get enough cell phone calls. Why are you calling me on my cell phone? I'm hanging up on you. Goodbye. Boom.
Brandon and Toby.
Well,
And
But what did he say? It was an ass dial?
Was it me?
Just text me right here. I can see it right at the bottom of the screen.
And that's it. Another thing that we had discussed as well was, the self-reporting ATF has put out, those that, with the self-reporting and the situation where Mike talked about those multiple cell reports. ATF likes to hear the little things like, during an internal audit, we caught our own mistake, we corrected it, we put in a new standard operating procedure, and we self-reported that we made this mistake. Those help along the lines.
Yeah, and let us help you self-report.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It better come to us first.
Yeah.
Everything better come to us first. It's that's the way things really need to work, guys. And then that's really it. Avis, Avis and Deborah. Deborah's been making calls, folks. If you've been receiving a call from a Deborah at FFLGuard, please respond to her. We're trying to make sure that we have every client's power of attorney updated. We have every client's FFL updated. And that everybody is aware of how to get in and use the system. So please do not disregard any calls or emails from FFLGuard if you have, and please do not going forward. It's imperative that we be in constant contact these days. Davis.
Okay, yes, and as you notice, I want everybody to make, even though Chris talked about it, I want to reiterate it. We have classes. We want them to make sure they are signed up. If you don't have a logon, please put in a ticket. We will get you one. So just let us know. We can help you with that.
Go for it, Chris.
Less is
Take
more.
us home.
I love it. Short and sweet. Pow. Avis just drops the mic. Boom. That's what we've got.
Follow up.
So to that end, I think we've all said our piece. We've gone on for 50 minutes. If you have any questions, further questions, drop them into the help desk. Reminder, yes, I am warmly and gently and wonderfully magnanimous fellow that I am. You're welcome to text me anytime you want. If I'm busy, I'll get back to you when I can. But at the end of the day, if you have questions, the fastest way to get them answered is not by texting me. It's by going through the help desk. That's how we keep track of every single thing. And as you can imagine, I get pulled in a lot of different directions. So if it's an emergency, please call me. Absolutely. But if it's a routine question, just drop it in the help desk and it'll get answered a lot faster that way. We will have our next call webinar on Monday, May 2nd. Monday, May 2nd. That will be at 11 a.m. Eastern, and then at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. California time, we'll have the California call. Don't forget to do everything I told you to do, and I will catch up with you guys next month. Take care. All right, Brian, you can kill the